Cystic fibrosis is one of the most common fatal genetic diseases affecting young Canadians, but most of us would never expect this disease to affect one of our own kids. Well, for Shaun Nechvatal, this is a reality. Shaun, before we talk about what's happening behind us, there's lots of fun happening here just outside of Market Mall. Let's touch base on the impact cystic fibrosis has had on your family and specifically your son, Dominic.
For sure, yeah. Dominic was diagnosed when he was a month old. It was a complete surprise to us. But fortunately, Saskatoon is actually home to a pediatric CF clinic and the only adult CF clinic in Saskatchewan. So we received a phone call from the clinic one evening, and my wife took the call. I was coaching at a practice and just completely floored us. But in the big picture, we were very fortunate that he was diagnosed early. We were able to have some of the interventions, some of the procedures, physiotherapies, medications early on. Early intervention has made a huge impact on his health. And obviously for us, it was a big learning curve initially, but very fortunate that he was identified early, and been very fortunate he's been in good health given all the challenges that he faces.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those at home who may not know what cystic fibrosis is, I believe it has to do with some abnormal genes. Can you explain a bit of that to us?
Yeah, it's a genetic disorder, and when you have two parents that have are carriers of the disease, you have a 1 in 4 chance of a child being diagnosed or being positive for cystic fibrosis. We have 2 older children, so we had no idea. They never showed any sign, never came up positive on any screening. It affects the lungs for him primarily. It can also affect other systems, and it also affects his pancreas. So he takes enzymes for every meal and any meal that he is, anything he eats or consumes. So we have to stay on top of him with that. But again, fortunately, with that early identification and early intervention, that's become commonplace. We're leaving somewhere, going somewhere. Hey, do you have my enzymes? Or Mom, Dad, how many enzymes do I need for this cupcake or this burger? Or can I just have fries? And so he's learned it's part of his routine. He knows he has to do his physiotherapy in the morning and in the evening. We are quite vigilant. Our whole family, we have a routine whenever we come home from anywhere, from school, from the mall. It's okay, everybody wash your hands, because that's the biggest way that we can reduce bacteria being exchanged or contaminating or getting into his lungs. But no, we've been very fortunate with him, and nothing slows him down. I don't know if it's because he's a boy and he's different than his sisters or what, but he's going all the time. He's got his great energy with him.
Absolutely. And of course, like I mentioned right at the top, there's lots happening here at Market Mall for your 5th annual Hoops for Hope. Of course, you are a coach, you're a teacher, so basketball is a lifeline for you. What is it that you really want people to get out of your event?
Well, obviously awareness of the disease. We have more and more newborns getting screened, and just kind of the level. Some people, when they hear that CF is a fatal disease or a disease that affects the lungs, they think, well, it's asthma, they can grow out of that. No, not exactly. It is fatal, it is genetic. There are some other things in there that he won't, Dominic specifically and others, this isn't something they're going to grow out of. And Dominic's been fortunate. He hasn't had any major hospital stays. So we want to raise money for Cystic Fibrosis Canada, just to have that hope that there will be a cure found one day for cystic fibrosis. They're close. There are certain, because it is a genetic disease, there's different mutations. So they've got some drugs that can address and hopefully manage and address some of the aspects of CF, but that's only for a specific mutation. Not so much Dominic's, but we're getting there. We're getting closer, and Canada is a front runner in cystic fibrosis research. So the more we can do, the closer we can get, not only for Dominic, but all those affected with CF.
Absolutely, and one way you do that is by hosting this event every year. It's the 5th annual. There's lots coming up on today's show from the Hoops for Hope, so you definitely want to stay tuned for that. But first, we'll be right back after the break.